In this episode, the Nazi Pig Theorem or NPT by Alan Barker. Anyone who non-consensually violates your brain-mind mentation using Mengele-like methods is a Nazi pig. You do not care what a Nazi pig thinks. You do not care about a Nazi pig's opinions. You do not respond to a Nazi pig ridiculing you, threatening you, trying to distract you, or otherwise trying to manipulate you. You work to get a Nazi pig hanged. Isn't that obvious? Don't you believe it? Then remember it and act like you know it. NPT is as sharp as a razor. The contrapositive of NPT is also useful. If they are not Nazi pigs, then they are not raping your brain. So you can think anything about anyone. It's just you and the Nazis in your mind, and their opinions do not matter at all. If you have a passing thought about someone and the Nazis try to harass you with it or make you feel guilty about it, it does not matter. The Nazi pig's opinions do not matter unless they somehow help to get the pigs hanged. If you think some thought about someone who really is raping your brain, then you have some worse things to think about that Nazi piece of human garbage than what floated through your brain originally. One use of the Nazi Pig Theorem is to try to go on with ordinary life even as you are being tortured and you know the true, evil nature of the society you are living in. Spend some time each day working for justice in the physical world, and the rest of the time try to ignore the Nazi pigs and get on with your life as best as you can. My philosophy is basically to wish people well, and any differences I have had with people are all water under the bridge after not too long. But atrocities never, ever pass under the bridge. The victims never forget, and never should forget. Of course, any victim is free to choose to forgive his or her torturers, but for torturers to lecture their victims about forgiveness is the Christianity of the oppressor. Forgiveness also does not preclude justice. The unfortunate reality is that when dealing with anyone, they are either a Nazi or a non-Nazi. Torture makes it that clear. This is the top node of the decision tree for the torture victim, and it is a stark split. Of course, the difficult part is that you do not know exactly who is a Nazi pig and who is not. So you might start off with a reasonable benefit of the doubt and collect evidence from there to update your current assumptions. But how do you deal with someone you think has a 10 chance of being a Nazi pig? How do you deal with someone you think has an 80 chance of being a Nazi pig? That is your own utility/decision function, and it is not easy. People have to make decisions based on imperfect information all the time, but this purposefully inflicted torture pushes it past what people are accustomed to have to deal with in ordinary situations. Nonetheless, the government is accountable for the aggregate situation where torture occurs regularly and systematically in North American society. The NPT is your firewall. As a corollary, the external firewall theorem states that you do not care in the slightest bit what Mengele thinks. Analyze the external incomings for nature and source, as well as for other evidence if you choose to, and then send them straight to your mental deep null. Then work each day to get the pigs hanged in the real world, in the best way you can. There is also an internal firewall theorem. Your brain is your own to think whatever you want with. Simply invoke it and think about something entirely different if you are thinking something that you don't want to be thinking about. Train yourself toward that, at any rate. Some suggestions for thinking about the harassment. The way to think of a non-consensual external is as an advanced cattle prod that can be modulated in various ways to cause you pain. The modulation happens to be with words or clicks, but that is secondary. It is a modulated cattle prod. Notice it and try to get a feel for the nature and source of the signal. Where does it seem to be coming from? What is the quality of the signal? Later you can analyze the sigh-off sentence the pigs modulated onto the cattle prod signal if you feel like it. This may reveal more about them than about you. The modulation is based on you reflected off of their filthy Nazi distorting mirror with their intention being to cause you harm. You might keep a rough histogram count on your pig phrases, for example. Does the signal ever have a foreign accent or speak a foreign language? Probably not. But basically understand that the Nazi pigs are complete, pathological liars. If they flatter you 1 second, they'll kick you in the head 3 beats later. You can almost count on it. Pathological lies only tell the nominal truth as part of a larger lie, and the purpose is to destroy your mental well-being and your life. Source before semantics, signal before semantics. The source is where the signal comes from, both the person sending it and the sensory input method by which you receive it. The semantics is the meaning of the signal, it is the interpretation of the signal and its modulation. For example, the semantics of a signal will often be its interpretation as an English sentence. If the signal comes in on a rape channel, do not even give it a semantics except perhaps as part of an evidence-gathering process. It is just a sensation you feel from the external cattle prod. The presence of the non-consensual external signal itself is torture and is the only real information, since the modulation is by pathological liars whose intention is to cause you harm. Don't debate the autopig or the real-time idiot. Even if it's easy. Unless you feel like it. They hate it when you ignore them. Go on with your ordinary life, meeting people and especially speaking out and working for justice in the real world. You can only really ignore them when you know what is going on, though. Some of the people who they march around their own homes like robots probably think they are just ignoring it. There is a big difference between an experienced victim deciding to ignore future signals and some well-meaning advice giver who has never been tortured telling you to just ignore it. On our next episode, we will complete the Nazi Pig Theorem. Visit www.targetedindividualscanada.wordpress.com for more information.